Today's guest helps people rediscover who they really are, especially those who have spent years being dependable, responsible, and quietly putting themselves last. Kristen Crabtree is the author of Be the You That's More You Than You Ever Been, and the creator of Paramour Paradox, a framework designed to help people reconnect with their true identity and rebuild their lives from a small place of alignment. Her work comes from lived experiences. After spending more than 5 decades losing sight of who she was, including 22 years in a physiologically abusive marriage, Kristen began the difficult journey of rebuilding her life and rediscovering her voice. Today, she helps others do the same. Through her work, Kristen explores how our thoughts shape our emotions shape our behavior, and how many of us unknowingly live through the patterns that once helped us survive but no longer serve us. Her message is simple but powerful. It's never too late to reconnect with who you truly are and start living a life that feels real again. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Crabtree. Let's get into it. Welcome, Kristen, to the Influence Exchange. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, JB. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. So, Kristen, I'm influenced and motivated by what you bring and your history. So, I would like to dive into a little bit about your Paramour Paradox and how you created it. Started from the ground up, please.
Yeah. So, Paramour Paradox was not like a logical creation. It wasn't based on like wanting to build a business or build a book or, anything like that. It really kind of came from a connection to self, I guess
Sure.
is the best way I can describe it. So, but I didn't start here. I started somewhere else. And the somewhere else, I'll do just the short overview of
Sure.
my story, but I'm happy to dive into anything that you want, but it's not always necessary. So it's up to
Sure.
you. But I am an open book, so whatever you want to do. So I was sexually assaulted at 13, raped at
Mm.
15. That's significant because it was weaponized against me in my marriage. So I was married for 22 years. And only after I left did I realize that I was psychologically abused during the
Sure.
marriage because the way psychological abuse works is it's hidden from you, right?
Sure.
It's just, it's different from physical and sexual abuse because those are pretty obvious. You wind up with bruises, cuts, scrapes, whatever.
Right.
But with um, psychological abuse, it's this steady chip, 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 chip every day, all day long.
Sure.
In my case, for 22 years. And so um, I left not because I had clarity. I left because the bear chasing me was more scary than the abyss that I was standing in front of.
Sure.
And and I mention that because, I don't know if your audience is really in that space, but if anybody listening is in this space where they know something's not right and they're waiting for clarity or a plan, that clarity and plan is not going to come, and they need to just take that leap because that's when the clarity will come. And
Sure.
that's why this is relevant to my story and how I created Paramour Paradox is it came out of taking that leap and leaving in a fog, where I was completely I knew nothing about myself,
Sure.
right? Um, and uh, in the beginning of leaving, I was spending hours and hours and hours every day on audiobooks just trying to understand what happened to me in my marriage. And after a few months of that and being on support groups about like narcissistic abuse, I one day I went down to my kitchen, and I was like, you know, I'm kind of done with this. Like
Sure.
everybody in the support groups seemed like they were stuck, like they just wanted to keep reliving their victim story, and I didn't want to stay there. I didn't know how to get out or what to do, but I knew I didn't want to stay there.
Sure.
So I looked on my Audible app, and I found a book that I had downloaded without knowing anything about it. It's called Becoming Supernatural. It's written by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
And his work influenced me very dramatically in a couple of ways. It's it's not what directly influenced
Right.
Paramour Paradox, but what it did was get me to a place where I could start to hear my truth,
Sure.
and my truth told me each step of the way what to create for Paramour Paradox. Um, to hear my truth, the short version of that is understanding the thought leads to a emotion, leads to a release of chemicals that you
Wow.
become addicted to, that
Sure.
leads to a behavior, that leads to an experience, that leads back to a thought. So that loop um, really helped me understand why I was stuck in the victim story and why I was ruminating all the time and spiraling. Um, and that understanding and then tools to cut through that nonsense and get to
Yep.
a place where my monkey mind would quiet. Um, that was all influenced by Dr. Joe's work.
Sure.
And once I got there, I heard in a meditation,
Right.
heard for lack of a better word, to go find my book that I wrote in 1999. And that was the start of Paramour Paradox.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. So, Kristen, you have a book, Be the You That More You Than You Ever Been. Let's speak to me a little bit about your book, please. And where can people purchase your book?
Yeah, so the book is, first of all, it's available on Amazon and also on my website,
Thank you.
paramourparadox.com. And it's also, I just released the journal about 3 days ago, which is not just a typical journal. It's
Sure.
exciting.
Yeah.
Um, but the book is uh, designed on the metaphor of an archaeologist, artifact, architect.
Sure.
And the archaeologist is um, the becoming the archaeologist means that you learn the science, the metaphysics, the philosophy, all of that to equip you to be able to differentiate between artifacts, which are like either the authentic pieces of you or the adaptations.
Right.
So they're experience and memories that make up either who you aren't really or who you really are. And so the training that the archaeologist gets helps you differentiate between what these artifacts are. And then the architect is who you become to design what
Sure.
I call the true you 2.0 self. And that is the version of you in this life and this body today that is here to do its mission,
Okay.
that is discovered from the excavation
Sure.
of digging for your true self.
That
So
is
that's
fascinating.
that's the book. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. So, audience, you could purchase Kristen's book on Amazon. So, there's a five-part framework that you go by. Let's talk about that. Walk us through framework 1 to 5, and how does that work?
So by the framework, I assume you mean the bodies and
Yes.
integration, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
because there's sort of the two frameworks.
Sure.
There's the archaeologist, artifact, architect framework, and then within that, there's the breakdown
Mhm.
into doing the excavation based on your four bodies, so
Sure.
mental body, emotional body, physical body, and energy body, So each one of those bodies gets its own section, and each section is broken down into the archaeologist, the excavation, which is
Hmm.
made up of roughly 100 questions per section and 20
Wow.
to 40 exercises per section. And you are not supposed to do all of them, but there's that many because different people, learn or respond or resonate with different things. And so the whole point to everything I do is I don't know your truth. Nobody does. Nobody knows how to get to the quote unquote best version of you. And I
Sure.
I put that in quotes because the best version of you is the real version of you, which is what you're digging for in this
Absolutely.
excavation.
Right.
It's not about putting stuff on or changing what's here. It's about stripping away and hearing your truth.
Love
So
it.
I'm not the expert. I give you information in the
Hmm.
archaeologist section so that
Sure.
you know science, metaphysics, philosophy related to that body. I give you a ton of questions and exercises that you can pick and choose from to dig up your artifacts.
Sure.
The third chapter in each section is called The Web, and that is a short fictional story that illustrates if you make one tiny change related to what you just learned,
Yes.
not only how it ripples out into your life, but how it ripples out into the world. And one little decision can make
Right.
this huge change. So the four bodies, they each have their own section made up in that style. The fifth section is called it's the architect, and it's called integration. So it's where you
Integration.
take the information that you've gotten and you are able to design your future. Now, I take a completely different approach to like goal achievement or manifesting or whatever you want to call it than most people. So a lot of times you hear like the smart goals
Right.
where you set a goal and you work back from it, and
Sure.
it's a linear path. You do x and then do y and then
Right.
do z, and you get there, and it might take you 10 years, but you get there, right? And you've had some wonderful podcasts on that process,
Sure.
and it is a very valuable process for um, like goal achievement,
Sure.
right? But for transformation, the linear path doesn't make as much sense. So the reason I say that is because so my section 5, the
Yes.
integration, the architect, looks at things from the position that time is an
Mhm.
artificial construct,
Sure.
which a lot of people don't know that, but time doesn't really exist. It's an artificial construct.
Right.
Because of that, when you're talking about transformation, linear time doesn't really apply, or it doesn't have to apply.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
So I also introduce, and throughout the book, you're getting information that makes what I'm about to describe not seem so scary. And I'm
Okay.
really good at making things simple.
Yes.
But I also talk about retrocausality, and not all of these are proven. Just like at one point, light wasn't proven or
Sure.
whatever, it's like these are all concepts, some of which have been proven and some of which are still open to debate, but that are there to open your mind to the possibility or the potential of
Sure.
what can happen. So I talk about consciousness, I talk about um, retrocausality, which is basically the future impacting the past, which
Okay.
is a super cool concept,
Yeah.
the artificial construct of time.
Mhm.
And I walk you through a process of using your artifacts to build a jig
Okay.
that so for those who don't know what a jig is, it's a carpentry term. A carpenter will usually build a jig. They'll take
Hmm.
the time and energy to build a jig before they build the chair,
Sure.
because doing so will make sure that every chair leg is the same length, and the
Right.
holes and that it all fits together
Right.
well. So it winds up making the construction process much more efficient and much more accurate.
Sure.
And so, what the jig does is it provides you with a tool to immediately make decisions. So, you're
Hmm.
presented with an opportunity or a concept,
Sure.
and you can know immediately. You don't have to do a pro con list, you don't have to do analysis. You
Right.
know immediately if it's right or wrong for you.
Sure.
Okay. And so the idea behind the way I approach um, transformation
Sure.
is that it can be immediate.
Okay.
So you don't have to operate on linear time. And there's a couple things that I like to share with people for them to really believe that that's the case. So, one thing is we see the world through a filter, and that
Sure.
filter is from our brain. We only see 0.01% of what is really there. And
Zero one.
it's actually smaller. It's
Okay.
actually 0.00002%, but
Interesting.
that's like
Okay.
so minuscule. It's even hard
Sure.
to try to get your brain around. But
Right.
the first layer of cutting it,
Okay.
we only take in 0.01% of what
1%.
is really there. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's science. That's not like
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
metaphysics or me being,
Hmm.
woo woo or whatever. That's
Sure.
science.
Okay.
So, what that means is a lot of stuff is getting filtered out, right?
Yep.
99.9999% of reality is getting filtered out.
Right. Right.
Okay. So, why and how? Well, our brain is there to do us the favor of presenting us with
Mhm.
information
Okay.
that allows us to operate in this world
Hmm.
without losing our marbles by
Yep.
seeing 100% of what's there.
Sure.
But the problem is the brain's filter is wired for efficiency and expectation.
Okay.
So if you expect to see angry
Hmm.
people who, never let you do what you want to do and put, whatever,
Negative.
that's
Someone
what you
negative.
see.
Right.
Yep.
Sure.
And if you expect to, see people who are really helpful and really
Hmm.
nice, that's what you see. A way you can test this filter. I actually have some really cool things, but just something everybody has experienced and can relate to um, is you're getting ready to buy a car. It's going to be a Subaru Crosstrek, and you really want that orange color. And all of a sudden, every car on the road
Right.
is the orange Subaru Crosstrek, right?
Right.
Have you had
Right.
that experience? With
Absolutely.
something, yeah,
Yeah.
right? So that is your brain. That's an example of your brain's
Hmm.
filter. And
Yep.
that part is actually called the reticular activation system,
Particular
RAS.
activation system.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's a little thing in our brain
Sure.
that does this filtering for us. So what that means is you are seeing the reality that you expect to see.
Okay.
Okay. So that means that there is a way to expect to see a different reality and see that.
Sure.
Okay. So if you are able to see the filter you're seeing through, which I give people a way to do that,
Okay.
if you're able to see the filter you're seeing through, now you can tinker with the filter.
Okay.
And if you tinker with the filter, then you can actually be living in a different reality now.
Okay. I like
Okay.
it. Yep.
And because time is an artificial construct,
Hmm.
if you know what your future self, the real self, the self that you want to become,
Sure.
if you know what that is and you live from it today, then you are that. You don't have to become that anymore.
Sure.
Which is why my book is called Be the You That's More You Than You've Ever Been, instead of Become the You That's More
Uh,
You Than You've Ever
right.
Been.
Right.
Because if you can be that right now, because
Sure.
you actually are. You just don't know it yet. You've
Right.
forgotten. And
Right.
so it's a matter of helping you remember who you really are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I have just learned a lot. Stuff that I have not had no idea. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So you, as a certified divorce coach, I'm married.
Uh-huh.
I'm No one's perfect. What motivates you when it comes to coaching someone that's or a couple actually that's maybe struggling or thinking about divorce?
Yeah, so I'm not a divorce therapist and I'm not a
Right.
couples therapist or a
Right.
couples coach. So a divorce coach is for one person. Now, it doesn't have to be for a person who knows they want to get a divorce.
Okay.
It could be for a person who's like, things aren't right. My spouse isn't listening to me. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should get, a divorce or get separated or stay married and just suck it up or like, I
Sure.
don't know. So, as a divorce coach, I'm not pitching divorce. I'm not selling divorce.
No.
Like, I
Mhm.
don't want you to do what you aren't
Yep.
meant to do, right?
Sure.
So, just like the Paramour Paradox. So, Paramour Paradox is not divorce oriented.
Hmm.
It is not trauma oriented. It is about helping people who are asking that existential question of who am I?
Sure.
That's what it's about. And that is like my soul's calling, for lack
Okay.
of a better
Okay.
word.
Sure.
The divorce coaching is more the vehicle. It does two things. One, it's how I earn my money, right? It's
Of course.
the coaching part. But the other thing it does is a lot of times once people are out of the fog of the divorce and they've
Right.
had the tangible um, assistance that they need to make it through that, a lot of times they come out on the other side going, "Who am I?" Right? Which
Yeah.
is what Paramour Paradox does.
Absolutely.
So they're not the same, but there is that part of the relationship to them. And to answer your question about how I would help a person, so not a couple, but a
Sure. A
person
person.
who
Okay.
was facing that. So as a divorce coach, essentially what I am is I'm trained in helping people who are faced with a big transition how to navigate that. Divorce happens to be one of the big transitions that people face.
Sure.
But that big transition could be retirement, it could be empty nesting, it could be leaving a job and starting a career. I mean, a company. So it doesn't have to be divorce, but um, the application of what I do is really effective for somebody who is facing the transition
Sure.
of do I want a divorce
Right.
or how do I navigate the divorce? So, in the case of somebody coming who doesn't know if they want a divorce, really it's kind of the same process as the book, it's just framed differently. So, it's
Sure.
still digging, helping them identify what is true, what is
Mhm.
authentic, what is in alignment with who they are. If they and their spouse have the potential to have a really deep, rich, meaningful relationship, but they've just lost sight of how to do that,
Sure.
then the process could be helping that one person work with that in the context of staying in the marriage or staying in the relationship. But if in the process of digging again,
Sure.
kind of at that same concept, they realize, oh no, this marriage kind of was never right to begin with, or it was right in the beginning, but now I don't know who the heck they are, and I
Of
don't even know
course.
who I am.
Yep.
Then it's a lot more tangible process of, okay, let's figure out what your priorities are. Let's figure out what's important to you. Let's figure out what kind of experts you need on your team. Let's figure out how to keep you um, oriented and
Hmm.
organized so that you can get the most value out of the lawyer and the therapist and
Right.
the um, real estate agent and the whatever that is a part of your team. So that part of the work is a lot more practical. It's a
Sure.
lot more, sort of this life experience of how to navigate all those challenges, all those
Of course.
components.
Of course. It took me 3 years with a thought process of creating this podcast. And I was just not motivated, not inspired. And if I knew you back then, I'm sure I would have done it 3 years ago. So, again, Kristen, thank you for sharing your story. That's inspiring. And I'm hoping if you're watching on YouTube or listening, please research Kristen and buy her book. I want to go back a little bit. You said you're with someone for 22 years. Why you think sometimes if someone is struggling in a relationship in year 1, year 5, year 10, they just don't stop and just go their ways? Yes, they may have a mortgage together sometimes. They may have a family or whatever it is, but just why it takes sometimes so long. And I can speak from experience. What do you think that is, Kristen?
Yeah. So in my case, I know what the answer is. We
Sure.
had a perfect marriage. We never fought. We never disagreed.
Hmm.
It was so peaceful. But you know why? Because I
Why?
was trained to never disagree.
Ah,
And
okay.
I didn't even know that. I thought we had this incredible marriage because we
Sure.
never fought.
Sure.
I totally didn't realize we never fought because I was not allowed to have a brain and a mouth, you know? So, yeah, we had a perfect marriage by everybody else's
Sure.
observations,
Right.
you
From
know?
the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So speaking up, you have to speak up for yourself. I've learned that growing up in my life, I've been in relationships prior to getting married that was not happy. Either we were together because we wanted to party, we were together because of feeling comfortable with each other, whatever it is. And I always, not always, but as I've grown and became a better person, a professional, I've made those mistakes and I'm trying to my journey explaining my mistakes and just talking to other people about my mistakes. And hopefully there's one person out there that has experienced what you've been through, Kristen, what I've been through, that they could say, you know what, I'm making that change today. That's so important. And there is one person out there probably listening or watching, and they probably going to say, I'm moving forward. That's so important. Okay. So, being when did you first realize you have disappeared internally? You sat down and said, I am completely gone
After I left.
after you left. Sure.
Yeah. When I realized I didn't even know, like, what kind of clothes I like to wear, what I like to eat. I was completely isolated. I had one local friend
Yeah.
that I had just made the year before.
Sure.
Um, I, I, when I met my wife, I was a hippie,
Okay.
but she didn't like that, and
Sure. Sure.
so I quickly learned not to dress like a hippie and not to have things around the house that were like a hippie. And for those
Okay.
who are listening to this instead of watching it, I've got a nice big tapestry behind
I
me,
love it. I
and
love it.
my whole house is filled with colors. It's kind of like a Turkish uh, harem den or something. Whereas she, and thank God she had beautiful taste. She liked mid-century modern, which is gorgeous, but
Sure.
it's not me. And I didn't
Right.
even know that until I
Right.
moved out. And I moved into a furnished apartment, which interestingly was also mid-century modern.
No, no
So
way.
it wasn't until
Right.
I actually got out of that rental,
Sure.
it got my own place, that I was like, oh, so I don't have any furniture from my
Right.
marriage because I literally left with
Sure.
2 carloads of clothes and kitchen stuff. That's all I
Sure.
took, and my pets.
Okay.
Um, but I all of a sudden could buy furniture, and I was like, what do I like?
Yeah.
Like, what do I want my
What I
space to
want.
look like?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
How do I move
So
forward?
yeah, so you asked, like, when did I realize or wake up? It's a process of realizing
Mhm.
and waking up, but I didn't have any sense that I had disappeared until I actually left,
Sure.
and then realized, oh my God,
Hmm.
like, who am I? You
Yeah.
know, who
Yeah.
am I?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kristen, from my experience, you plan in your head, right? You go to bed one night, oh, tomorrow's the day. Then tomorrow comes, oh, the next day is the day. I'm finally going to leave or finally going to make a change in my life. Um, and it just takes so long. And I've learned that if you're thinking and your heart feels it and your mind feels it, Go with your gut. Just do it. It might be a struggle in the beginning to rebound and to finally be yourself and find your identity, but believe me, it will come. So I'm happy you're at a place right now, Kristen, that you could speak about it and with a huge smile on your face. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. And you know what you were just saying about you go to bed and you wake up and you think I'm going to do it tomorrow and then that
Sure.
day passes. So today is yesterday's tomorrow, you
Right.
know. And if you start to think about your day that way, it can start to shift that feeling of urgency or commitment. I mean, it is scary. You know, I left not knowing if I was going to be homeless. You know,
Wow.
I
Wow.
didn't know. All
Sure.
of the control was taken away from me. She actually forbade me from moving out. She accepted that I wanted a divorce, but she wouldn't let me move out. And I thought she had the power to say I couldn't move out.
Sure.
And it wasn't until I actually found two different places that were cheap in
Hmm.
really bad neighborhoods,
Sure.
but that were furnished and took
Hmm.
pets and were inexpensive. And
Hmm.
I said I was going to move out, and she said, "No, you can't. We can't afford it." And so I found a cheaper place that was
Sure.
worse. And she said, "No, you can't afford it." And I was on a walk with that one friend I
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
and I was singing my woes to her. And she said, "Well, why don't you just move out?" And I said, "Well, she won't let me."
Oh
And
my.
my friend looked at me and said, "You don't need her permission."
Right. 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 Right.
And I
Right.
was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right. Right.
I don't."
Right. Right.
And I had to move out when she was on a trip because she
Okay.
wouldn't I knew she wouldn't let me leave
Sure. She
if
will
she
hold you.
was around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how it happened.
Good. 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 And I'm
But I
happy that.
did not have a plan.
Sure. No
I
plan.
did not
Yeah.
have a plan.
Yeah. I know. I'm going back, a lot younger. I had to move back home with mom, sleeping in the couch. I did that when I was in my teenage years, and then as a man, I say, whoa. But I was happy. I moved on and I rebound, I would say, and
Mhm.
started new. I started brand fresh and new. So
Yep.
it's something. So Kristen, when the lens shift, the path shifts, right? There's something that I read about you. Explain the definition behind that, please.
Yeah. So I mentioned that our brain works as a filter,
Yes.
right? And if you can see the filter you've been seeing through, then it gives you a different perspective. So
Sure.
filter, lens, I use those words interchangeably.
Yes.
So I actually have on my website, I have a whole bunch of free gifts,
Okay.
four of which are what I call mind expanding experiences. I use that term because people get afraid of the word meditation,
Okay.
and they're a sneaky way of getting you to
Sure.
experiment with meditation.
Okay.
And so the exercises are or the experiences are to help you experience the filter that you've
Hmm.
been living through. So they
Sure.
break it down according to sight. The second one is hearing. The third one is physical sensations, and then the fourth one integrates all of those.
Sure.
And through these meditations, I'll
Yeah.
use the dirty word,
Right.
through
Right.
these
Right.
meditations, you're able to actually like see more of what's really there and
Okay.
hear more of what's so all that stuff that you filter out, you can start to expand and actually experience it.
Sure.
And so once you really become aware, like kinesthetically of that filter, that's when you can start to change it. That because
Sure.
again, the filter works for efficiency and expectation.
Okay.
So if you just tinker with that expectation part of it, but you can't do that until you see it, until you
Right.
know it's there.
Right.
And so that's why I say that about the lens or filter, same
I
thing.
love it. Yeah. Kristen, you have taught me so much in this 30-40 minutes of us talking today. I really appreciate it. Um, one thing I like to talk about is motivation, right? What motivates a person to do something good, to speak out? what is your motivation today? What is your inspiration today, Kristen, that you could share with the audience, please?
So you're asking a couple of different questions in
Okay.
there. So at first, when you said, let's talk about motivation, I thought you meant in the context of like uh, creating. So like
Sure.
working or, building something, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm going to answer it that way
Okay.
first.
Fair enough.
But then if we want to look at motivation, like, an intrinsic desire to help people, you said
Yes.
something about motivate, we can also talk about it from there.
Sure.
So, if you are living in alignment with your truth,
Hmm.
you do not need motivation or discipline.
Sure.
They come,
Right.
it's there. You don't need it. So, if you're having to motivate yourself and discipline yourself, then you're not in alignment.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people spend a lot of um, energy um, reaching a goal that isn't really in alignment with who they are.
Sure.
And we can become really good at that. I was extremely good at goal setting and,
Right. Right. Right.
achieving my goal
Sure.
and having, oh my God, I was so good at that. But the problem is we can get into this
Hmm.
momentum of, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this because we think it's where we need to go. But
Hmm.
if you're
Right.
really living in alignment with who you really are, then all that just comes naturally. You don't have to discipline yourself and motivate yourself. It just happens. So that doesn't mean linear goal setting is bad, because once you figure out what your alignment is, it
Hmm.
still helps to have that
Of
tool to
course.
get you there because you can't
Right.
just sit, even though life will flow and it will be easier, you still have to have tools to actually get
Of
somewhere, right?
course. Right.
And so, that a lot of the tools that you talk about in your podcast for achieving goals and being disciplined,
Yeah.
that all are important tools to have once you know the path that you were supposed to be on.
Right.
That does give you some natural motivation and discipline, but it still
Sure.
helps to have those tools to be able to achieve
Of course.
the things that you want to do.
Of course.
So that's one answer to your motivation. To the motivated to like do something good for people,
For people. Right.
see, here's the thing.
Hmm.
Um, I can't believe I even say this so much
Sure.
because um, it just feels so good to say it. So I'm going to say the whole thing.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And this is
Okay.
about motivation for wanting to help people. Okay.
Yes.
So when you remember who you are, when you
Hmm.
remember your truth,
Sure.
you will realize that you are magnificent. You are brilliant. You are amazing.
Love it.
So once I realized that, it's like, of course I'm going to help other people. Like,
Yeah. Right. Right.
duh,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, and all of you listening are magnificent and brilliant. You have just forgotten.
Wow.
So the whole point of this life, in my opinion, is the journey to
Sure.
remembering how brilliant we are, and
I
then
love
living
it.
from there. So
I
there you
love
go.
it. I love it, Kristen. Kristen, we are running out of time, but I like to ask all my guests one final question. What are your final thoughts to the world?
Hmm. Um, be fearless in digging for your truth. It is so worth it. Um, I've attempted suicide. I've had suicidal ruminations for years. To be able to sit here and say, I am magnificent, and to live in a place of peace and equanimity is like unbelievable. It
Amazing.
is so worth the work. It is so worth the work. Your life will be amazing once
Absolutely.
you realize how amazing you are.
I love it. And before we go, Kristen, please, where can people find your book? Please, what is your website? And also, I will be adding your link for Amazon and your website on the episode description. But just please share that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amazon is a great place for the book and for the journal. paramourparadox.com, and you said you'll have the link there, so I don't need to spell it. The other thing, so those are great places if you just kind of want to dive into the material on your own.
Sure.
I also offer a chat. And, I'm, again, this is my passion. This is my mission. This is what
Love
Truth
it.
wants me to do. So I'm not going to try to sell you something.
Mhm.
That half-hour chat is just if you want to like have some questions asked so you can maybe get on a path that is the
Yeah.
right path for you. And so I'll give you that link too. It's you2.0.com, YOU, the number 2, the word point, the number 0.com. It's just a place to get on my schedule. I also am adding, so by the time this comes out, it will probably already be on there, a really amazing PDF
Sure.
about emotional sobriety, which
Ah.
is so we
Mm.
are, I won't even go into this because I know we're out of time, but we
Sure.
are addicted to emotions. Like
Absolutely.
literally, like
Yeah.
physically, biochemically,
Mhm.
to cortisol, adrenaline,
Oh.
oxytocin, like all this stuff. And once again, you realize that sometimes you can't change because of the addiction.
Yeah.
You have to
Mm.
admit you have the addiction, and then you have to know how to get beyond the addiction. And because that's such an important part of transformation, I'm creating a
Absolutely.
downloadable on
Sure.
that.
Sure. That Kristen, that will be our conversation on the next time. Definitely looking forward
Excellent.
to it. So, Kristen,
Excellent.
thank you for taking your time out of your day today and meeting with me. I really, really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome. Thank you again, Kristen. Before I go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a review, and remember, your influence grows every time you choose courage over comfort. I'm JV. Stay curious, stay consistent, and keep influencing others. Thank you.